Good afternoon. I'm with my friends Marcus Vaughn, also known as the ex-Wallkill Bethelite.
That's right.
And my friend Amy. We grew up in the same congregation. Amy K. They both have websites, channels on YouTube that you can check out. And then I don't think I've ever said my last name on camera, so it's Daniel Wiebe, in case any of you are wondering how that's pronounced. We've just been hanging out this afternoon talking about activism, different ideas about activism, realizing that it's a big responsibility to be an activist, to try to find an effective way and do it in a delicate way. You know, having the conversation about aggressive activism, what does that mean? It's been interesting. You guys have any thoughts about that you want to share?
Yeah, and I mean, everybody feels comfortable with different things. Different things work for different people. So, you know, we've been going back and forth. Would certain things do more harm than good, or would certain things, you know, reach younger people as opposed to older people? And you really don't know, you know. I think it's great to do just more things, you know, whatever you can do to try to reach someone. You never really know what's going to stick with anyone. So,
a thought I had was this idea that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are just crazy apostates who are doing this in-your-face stuff and trying to grab your attention. In a way, they leave us with no choice. If we're going to try to reach people that are shunning us, you can't do it the normal way. You can't just have a conversation that you would normally have with a person sharing ideas. So they kind of push you in a corner. If you're going to have a voice, there's limited options for how you're going to have that voice. Okay, so we had a problem with the camera. I think I ran out of battery, so I cut the video short. So we're going to take the rest on Amy's webcam. So,
there's too much wisdom in the room. It overloaded the computer. I think
shut it down.
So this is our second attempt. Let's see, where were we? I was just talking about how when they take away our voice, they leave us with limited options for how we can reach people.
Right, and I mean, we prefer to be able to talk to people that we love and care about, and we see things that really, you know, bother us, that we think they deserve to know. We would prefer to have a conversation with them, but we can't. You know, the society ensures that we can't talk to those people. They won't listen to us. So what other choice do we have?
Yeah, and again, going back to the point of using the training that we got in the organization, as far as getting past those things, there were the conversation stoppers. And the idea was to get around that, to circumvent anything that will prevent you from getting the message across. So there's different ways that we can use to be a little bit strategic,
right? To
be able to get through and to, especially since we know the organization so well. So a principle that they put in place that we know is not for the person's good, I think we should override that in order to get the message across in a way that's strategic and in a way that will be beneficial for the person.
Yeah, when we were witnesses, we would attempt to do that in the way that we would approach people, trying to be all things to all people. The best we could do, really, though, was look and see if there's, like, toys around the yard, and then we could talk about, you know, you're probably concerned about your kids or whatever. We would attempt to do that, but as a witness, I can say for sure that we did not understand the minds of non-members, of worldly people. We could not get inside their minds because it's a totally different way of thinking. But we have the advantage of knowing exactly how Jehovah's Witnesses think. So trying to bring that to the table and, again, try to find something strategic. I still don't know what the perfect answer is.
Right. And yeah, I mean, we have an insight into their minds in ways that, you know, no one else would unless they were witnesses. But we still don't know what's going on in each individual mind of each witness. Like how many of them have huge doubts, how many of them are mostly know that it's wrong, how many half know that it's wrong. Like we don't know how far they are from possibly being woken up, so it's really hard to know, like, if you do this, would this just scare them off? So I don't think you can really think that way, because how do you know? You don't know where they are in their mind, and what would really shake and wake them up, and what wouldn't. You can just try things.
Right. There's going to be some people who are just down the line believers that, you know, the Watchtower's never done anything wrong, and there's going to be people that are waiting on Jehovah, you know, waiting for certain things to be straightened out. You know, they have some questions, and then there are people, you know, that we call the conscious class, where they're in there, they know it's not true, but they're staying for family, you know, trying to help these people find a way out. And tell people that are having questions or who are waiting on Jehovah or who are doubting that, you know, maybe that is never going to be answered and the problem isn't with them and they're asking the right questions.
Exactly.
And they should follow that.
Yeah, because you're always ashamed as a witness, you know, if you don't understand something or, you know, it's wrong to be doubting and you're afraid to tell anyone that you have doubts. So even just that acknowledgement, like, yes, this is messed up. You're not the only one. There's a reason that you're doubting this. And,
right.
You know, follow that line of thought.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And then also, too, it's a good thing to really think about if you want to write a disassociation letter or fade or, you know, being disfellowship, there's things that are tied in with that, especially if you want to get back into activism, which you can do, but then it's hard to talk to relatives.
Right.
Which, who would you more, you know, want to come out?
Right.
But the people that you love the most. So those are things to think about. Everyone is not in a situation where they can dictate.
Right.
That.
Yeah, no, if you get kicked out for sexual misconduct or whatever, then that option was taken from you, and then you just make the best of it. But if you can leave in a strategic way, that obviously gives you more options. It's not easy to do, though, because once you realize that it's not the truth, it's like someone lights a fire under your ass,
right.
and you just want to tell it. I mean, like you were saying earlier, when you found out that the creation book had basically lies in it.
Yeah.
I mean, that it was not what they thought it was.
Right.
You thought, well, I'll present this information to my parents because they want to know the truth.
Right. They're following a religion of truth.
Right.
We go to people's door to show the truth. They care about truth.
Right. I mean, that's actually something that I feel that I gained from the religion is this idea that there is such a thing as truth.
Right.
I mean, I realize now that it's a lot more ambiguous than that. There are some things that you just don't have answers for, but it's easy to falsify things, and when something's falsified, I think that that's really important information, and people should want to hear that.
Right.
But apparently they don't.
Right.
So what was it? Oh yeah, my dad. I haven't talked about my personal experience a whole lot on my channel, but he had early on tried to talk me out of disassociating because he thought that me going inactive would have been easier on my parents, and I didn't. I ended up disassociating. It was very difficult after having that conversation with him in the morning and then that evening, waiting through the announcement. Right up until that announcement, I was thinking I could still call and say, don't make the announcement. But I held in there, and it was like after that, just like this breath of fresh air, this silence that felt good at the time. Mm-hmm. And then as the weeks started going by, you start feeling the shunning. And the consequences of this. I started having regrets. I started thinking, maybe he was right. Maybe I should have just gone inactive. And I actually sent that to my dad. I'm like, I'm feeling guilty that I wasn't able to have more conversations with you. If I had gone inactive, I would have been able to. And he texted me and he says, don't beat yourself up. We wouldn't have listened anyways.
Wow.
Those were his exact
words. Wow.
So take it for what it's worth. Those of you who are trying to decide between which is the right choice, I don't know. I think in most cases going inactive is probably the right choice. Mm-hmm. But there's consequences for that too. I mean, you think about people who have been, like just recently, Mike and Kim posted the video of the people that are disfellowship for hanging Christmas lights.
Yeah.
This is after they've successfully faded.
Right. They're
minding their own business.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden they get a letter saying, or a call saying, you have to come to this judicial committee. I have a friend of mine, he was disfellowshipped. He got reinstated just so he could associate with his family. Mm-hmm. He knew it wasn't the truth. But that's what they say. If you want to associate with your family, you got to come back. So he played the game, he came back, and immediately went into a fade. And did it successfully. Years go by, someone sees him driving his car smoking a cigarette,
Right.
and he gets a call, or just maybe even hears that he's disfellowshipped. I don't remember exactly how it went, but just because you fade doesn't mean that you're out.
Right.
And in some cases, I guess my fear would be that I'd be looking over my shoulder all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Have you had that feeling at all?
Well, I've been thinking about different options as far as fading, because it's not just a matter of slowly limiting your meeting attendance, but also some people decide, well, I'm going to fade in the sense that I'm going to move to another city.
Right.
And in so doing, the people that you knew, your loved ones in your home city, your hometown, they don't know that you're not attending meetings.
Right.
You're in another city, and then in the city that you're in, there aren't people judging you
Right.
with everything that you're doing. So that's just an option. Everyone may not be in position to do that, but that's something that people should be aware of.
Right.
Right.
That if it's important enough to them, that maybe moving to another city, it might just be a couple hours away. Would be a good idea.
If you're just getting off the radar,
Right.
Yeah.
so that the locals aren't looking over your shoulder. You don't have that buddy system where people are watching you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've read that a few times. People suggesting that with a fade, relocating is really wise.
Yeah, I'm sure that makes it so much easier. There is a little bit of satisfaction, though, even though it's really difficult and really hard, to standing up and saying, like, no, this is messed up. This is wrong. There's something good for your, psyche and well-being to do that. And no, I'm not going to, run off and disappear like still doing anything.
Okay.
We can tough. We can add that
Sorry,
out.
the screen just went blank and I thought that the video wasn't working anymore. It's still green light, so I think we're good.
Yeah, I think it's still recording. But yeah, there's some, feeling of kind of, I'm not going to just go away and, you don't get to just pretend like nothing is wrong with this.
Right.
Like kind of standing up and saying something.
And when I first disassociated and started getting in contact with ex-witnesses, talking to people who had actually also disassociated, I felt like this kind of elite class of people that had the balls to say, you can't fire me, I quit,
Right.
and just walk away from it. Which is interesting because as a witness, I always thought of the disassociated people as the worst of the worst. Because to actually choose to side with Satan, to leave, or to look at another way, people that disassociate, they were afraid of the discipline, and so rather than take their lumps, they would just walk out the door to avoid the judicial committee,
Okay.
But I have a very different perspective on that now. On the other hand, you have a lot of ex-witnesses who say that if you disassociate and hand in a letter, you're playing by their rules.
Yeah, I can see that too.
And any thoughts about that?
Well, I have to just make one point about that, because if you're like Amy and you're brave and you're bold and you're awesome, you can stand up
I'm not
and
always
tell everyone, hey, I'm not putting up with this. So it's either my way or that's good if you're awesome like Amy, but
Stop.
but one thing that's really important is to consider your economic situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, be
Before
realistic.
you do anything, if you have got, let's just put a scenario out there. If you've got 5 children and you're not really in a position to, not be thinking about the welfare of your children.
Right.
Because if it's just you, it's just you. But if you got children and you're not financially stable, you need to think about that and make sure you're in a position where you can provide for those children and you're not burning all your bridges.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very important point.
So if you consider all those things and you're still in a position to say, hey, I'm quitting, I'm putting in my disassociation letter, that's good. But if you're not, and you put yourself in a situation where now you don't have any family, that's not a good way to go.
Right.
So that's just something that people should be aware of before making any, rash decision.
Right.
It's a really good point.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I've heard that same argument made for teenagers that are coming out as gay or atheist.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have a situation where you can afford to do that, where you're not going to be homeless.
Yeah.
But yeah, the same thing would apply if you have kids, and
Yeah.
the more entangled you are with the organization, the more this question becomes important. Some people, their employment comes from the organization, their entire families in the organization, not to mention their social circles. So
You're right.
you got to think it through and try not to be so zealous that you burn your bridges, like you said.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And to give yourself time to heal, because once you first learn that you've been deceived, there's a rush of emotion that comes along with that, and during that period, there's a certain period where a person could make a lot of decisions that they wouldn't ordinarily make in their, you could say right mind, if they weren't so upset and distraught. So there might be a need for a period of time where you're able to gather yourself. And there's an ex-witness, his name is Everett, and he's working right now on a retreat, a property that's for that purpose, for someone to be able to get away.
Wow,
Really?
That's awesome.
And to collect themselves.
Almost like a
So
halfway
his
house.
name is Everett. Shout out to Everett. But yeah, he's working on that. And that's going to be a retreat where you can get away, gather your thoughts, and plan your future.
That
Where do
would
you
have
go
been
from
so
here?
helpful.
See, my partner Emily and I have talked about doing something like that. Richard Kelly, very active in the XTW forums, he Skyped with me, reached out to me when I first made my exit and was really struggling. He was talking about cults from all around the world, because that's something you don't realize when you're Jehovah's Witness, is how similar the experience of leaving an organization like this is for so many people from so many different backgrounds, from so many different world religions. And he says that in Israel, when people leave Israeli cults, the members will actually have a funeral for the person. They consider the person dead.
Really?
And those that exit, the community has halfway houses for people that leave organizations like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really have anything like that around here that I know about. So I think that's really awesome to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Everett and his wife are both
incredible.
working on that.
Yeah, I wonder if we should talk more about that at some point. At least we could start a Facebook group where people could offer their homes.
That's a good idea.
Just as an option for young ones, especially.
Yeah.
Or wives who are, abused and questioning.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Obviously there are halfway houses for women. I'm just kind of
Right.
thinking out loud right now. But yeah, we should talk more about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know people were doing stuff like that. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And then also just, considering talking to a professional that could really help you understand what happened and kind of put it in perspective. It's hard for people to put it in perspective because they think that they've thrown their whole lives away.
Right.
And that, it's something that's really hard for them to overcome emotionally. But if they are able to talk to a psychologist, if you have insurance where you're able to do that, that can put you ahead light years in your progress as far as healing is concerned. So I always tell people, if it is at all possible, if they're uncomfortable, I can call them, with them on the line and set the thing up.
Sure.
Because it is so important to be able to heal in a way that you're able to get on with your life. You don't want to waste. You already had time that you feel you wasted in the organization. You don't want to waste a whole lot of time now that you're free.
Right.
Right.
What do you think about, I've already spoken to a therapist a couple times, and maybe I need to, I know I need to keep going, and this would be a good question to bring up, but maybe I'll pick your brains about it a little bit, is I was in for 36 years. I was raised in it. It's all I knew. How do you not feel? I think about people that are in their 50s or 60s when they finally wake up. How do you take that situation and look at the life that you'd experienced before then and not feel like it was all for nothing? How do you look back on it and use it and embrace it and not have negative feelings about it? Have you thought about this at all?
I mean, I always think, like, I don't even know what kind of person I would be if I wasn't a witness. I mean, maybe, I do obviously really care about the pursuit of truth and helping people and, those ideals that we thought we had, we didn't really
Right.
have. But, wanting to learn things, figure things out, like, would I have that type of drive or all those interests if
Right.
I wasn't raised the way that I was?
That's a good question.
There's no way to know.
I'm finally getting to the point where I'm thinking about past relationships in kind of a bittersweet way. At first, it just feels like those people were torn away from you, and it just hurts so much.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that they're still living in the same town, in my case, and won't have anything to do with me, it makes it feel like they're hurting me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they feel the same. It's an unfortunate situation imposed by this organization. But I want to try to get to a place where I can look back on those relationships and those experiences I had with them, because I wasn't always just at meetings or out in service. I mean, we played music together. We did other things too, and those are fond memories. Those are things I can remember and hold on to and
Right.
say, I think, I learned from those. I learned about myself
Mm-hmm.
in a very controlled environment, but those were still valuable experiences, and now, I can start making new experiences.
Right, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, you can still, appreciate the good times that you had with people. It's, hard to know that you can't have those anymore unless they leave. But, it's like with anything. When people die, you still appreciate what you had with them.
right. Somebody replied to a post on Facebook on my own page. I forget exactly what I said, but it was lamenting the loss, and somebody said something to the effect of, in the story of the hero's journey, which comes up in story after story after story. I mean, Star Wars has the hero's journey in it.
Mm-hmm.
They said in the hero's journey, it usually involves the hero leaving his tribe and finding a new life somewhere else. We see it with Buddha. He was a Hindu. He started his own. He left that tribe. Same thing with Jesus. And so I guess we just have to kind of find a new tribe. We've left our old tribe, and it was painful. It was an ending, but now we have a new beginning. How do we go about doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a tribe that's meaningful to us, that we really believe in, not just something that our parents or our grandparents joined. So
Right.
a long time ago, so we're in it. It can be more fulfilling than that.
Obviously, we have a little tribe right here.
Oh yeah. And then there's a wise woman once wrote that one day of freedom is better than a lifetime of slavery. Of course, that was Amy. That's why she's laughing. But that was a very powerful point that she made, because people get stuck in the past, and not able to move on and appreciate their future because they're still thinking in the past.
Right.
And if you really get that concept down, that if you only had just the one day of freedom to be able to do whatever you wanted, find out what your interests are, and just enjoy your life the way you want to enjoy it, that's going to be far better than the 50 years you may have spent in the organization. And realistically, people are going to have way more than one day of freedom. So just being able to really get in that and to be overjoyed with, I'm going to find out who I am now.
Right.
Yeah. It is exciting.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to feel guilty if you don't always feel that, because obviously, it's going to be really hard. Not every day you're gonna go enjoy every minute of this. We're human beings, and coming out of a cult is very traumatic. But if you can just try to find a way to put that into perspective sometimes.
So what ways have you guys found to reach out in your community to build a new social circle? I mean, obviously we have the XJW community, which is very active on Facebook. There's discussion forums. There's a few people locally in my area that had exited before me that I've been able to reconnect with. That's been great. Meetups like the XJW or Midwest Apasta Fest had a big group of us that came from all around the Midwest. You know, you can come from Ohio to Wisconsin and
Oh,
hang out
yeah.
with us. I mean,
Hang out with the cool kids.
Stop.
Yeah.
put forth the effort to try to reach out to other ex-cultists, but beyond that, what can we do? How do you? It seems like a stupid question to ask
Right.
because it's such a normal thing. But
No,
how do you make friends?
Yeah. Well, one thing, like, I think being witnesses, like, we said no to a lot of invitations, you know, all the time. Like, people were inviting, you know,
That's true.
us to parties, to things to do, to go out for a drink or coffee or lunch or anything. And you get so used to, you know, holiday party at work, you just get so used to, no, I don't do that. And I mean, you might be nervous. You might not, the person that invites you, you know, you might not, I don't know if you'd hit it off with them or whatever, but it's just good to go out and do things. And you never know, you might meet other people.
Right.
So even if you just start kind of saying yes to invitations and do stuff socially.
It's good for me to hear because there's been things that, I mean, I have made some acquaintances and I'm not nurturing those like I should. I mean, there's been things where I've said I would go and I bail, or, you know, you just got to get out there, get outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because you do feel like an alien. I mean, you've mentioned that in one of your videos.
Definitely.
You feel like an alien. Like, when I first came out, I know not everybody's like this, but when I first came out, all I had to talk about was JW stuff, and I'd like just talk people's ear out. Like, I was in a cult, and this is what it was like, and this is who they are, and that's not something to build a relationship with somebody who's never had that experience.
Right.
So you feel without that, I felt like I don't have anything to offer. You know, I mean,
Sure.
I only know Watchtower.
Right.
So I feel like an alien, but I'm working on it.
I think sometimes, too, we underestimate other people who've never been witnesses, their ability to be able to kind of relate to us on some level. You know, everybody has lost people in their lives. You know,
True.
most people haven't lost everyone all at the same time, and their family and everything.
Right.
But, you know, they've had, some people have been disowned by certain family members because they're gay or they're atheist or, you
There's
know,
all kinds of
any
stupid
number
reasons why
of,
people cut family off.
yeah. You know, other people have been through really traumatic things that explaining, you know, they might not understand really why this is happening, or what you even are talking about when you're talking about some Jehovah's Witness stuff. But if you can describe, like, how you felt about it, I think most people who have never been witnesses that, you know, care about you and are your friend can relate to that on some level.
Right.
And a practical way of making friends is, you know, one thing is to work on yourself. And, you know, like you were saying, as far as being invited to things, but kind of being maybe a little antisocial. I'm not saying that's in your case, but maybe being a little antisocial could make things difficult. So working on yourself, being more social, and opening up a little bit, not fully trusting everyone, but opening up a little bit,
Right.
and dropping the concept that quote unquote worldly people are all bad.
Right.
They all do crack, and they all do, you know, things crazy like that. And just starting somewhere, maybe work, you know, where you work, invite a couple people to have a couple drinks after work, you know, and start small, build a social structure. If you're in college, that's a cool place to, you know, make some friends in your classes.
Right.
Kind of build that way. And then it's always good, if you can, look up some family that you may have not spoken to in a long time because they weren't witnesses.
Right.
You may have tons of family
Yep.
that aren't witnesses that you just haven't spoken to in a long time.
Right.
Right.
And then build from there, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. I'm kind of thinking about maybe, because you're right, I do have some antisocial qualities, and I think that that's probably common. I don't think I'm the only one
No.
that's an ex-witness that has that problem. Looking at myself and the way I was as a Jehovah's Witness, I wasn't great at reaching out to, I hate to use the phrase reaching out. I wasn't great at organizing things or like calling somebody from a different congregation. It's like my social circle was my congregation, and I didn't have to put forth any effort you saw him at least twice a week.
Yeah.
And you could be like, hey, you want to go out for lunch afterwards? And you'll go out for lunch, and then you think, hey, you want to go out and play some basketball afterwards?
Right.
I didn't play basketball. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it was handed to you,
Right.
this social circle, and you didn't have to work for it at all.
Yeah, we never even had to learn those skills growing up. Like, you don't even have to learn how to make friends. Here's your friend, the friend that goes to the Kingdom Hall. That's, you know. And I mean, you know, you can't pursue a lot of your interests and things that you really enjoy being a witness. So, I mean, when you start doing that now, you can, you know, meet other people that, whether it's, you know, a reading group somewhere or a community garden or, you know, anything like that. Like, just kind of following things that you're naturally interested in can be a good way to meet new people.
Right. Meetup.com.
Mm-hmm.
I signed up on Meetup.com and put my interest down for a whole bunch of things, but I'm in a little hayseed town, so everything's far away, which kind of stinks. But yeah, if you're in a bigger city, there's tons of groups that have similar interests that you can meet up with.
Volunteer organizations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
I like animals, so there is a shelter, and they let people walk the dogs and you know, help with the cats and the different animals and things like that. And there's, of course, other people working there.
Right.
So you can just spark up a conversation that way. And some people decide, hey, now that I know that the organization, you know, is false, some people choose to go to a church. And then there's another way that they begin to make friends with the concept that, okay, if I have a differing opinion from this person, they're not going to shun me.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So that may not be for everyone, but like Amy was saying, there is something for everyone. Everyone has some interest where they can find other people with the same interest. That and you know, other ex-witnesses, of course, you mentioned other than ex-witnesses, but again, you know, I came here to visit with Amy. And it's kind of one of those things where you have relatives that disown you, you know, but what's really family? Is family just blood?
Right.
Or is family someone that actually cares about you?
Right.
And that you really trust. And that's in your life and that's involved.
Yeah.
So, but I have a sister here, you know what I mean? Like I've got, you know, relatives that I haven't heard from in years, but I still have family. So that's important also in the sense that, yes, people know that there are extra Jehovah's Witness groups on Facebook and what have you, but you can go further than just the posts and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
I really like your idea about volunteering. There's a local volunteer center in Washington County, which is my county, and I keep meaning to go, and I just haven't done it yet. One of the things that we experience when we leave a high control group that is in every aspect of your life and has told you that the work you're doing is the most significant work that can be done on the planet right now. Mm-hmm. This goes for Scientologists, Jehovah's Witnesses. All cults are involved in what they feel is essentially saving the world. We are saving the world. Yep. This is the most important thing we can do. And when you leave that, even if you understand that it was all baloney and wasn't true, you feel directionless. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, it's called post-cult trauma. It's one of the things you experience with post-cult trauma is meaninglessness. It's just life feels pointless. So to find other things that are meaningful is really important. So your idea of going to a volunteer center, it has a twofold benefit. I mean, you're going to make new connections, and you're going to realize that there's other things that you can be doing that are important. In fact, much more important than what you were doing before, which only had significance within the context of this tiny little group.
Exactly.
And really does nothing for the world.
Yeah, you can really be helping people, you know, rather than wasting your time walking around with weird magazines.
Exactly. So, should we wrap this up?
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
We encourage you to reach out to other XJWs, not just online, but try to connect with people. Marcus, thank you for coming to our town.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man, again. Anytime I get a chance to hang out with the cool guys, I'm going to do it. From Dayton, Ohio, coming, you know, I'm almost country in comparison to all the people over here with this big city. But
Oh,
yeah,
it's still country here.
Yeah, this is not exactly big city.
No.
But
to me, you know,
Marcus has made himself available to people. I don't know how far you're willing to travel, but let's try to stay connected as a community and support each other and reach outside. You know, get out of your comfort zone. Talk to people that never were Jehovah's Witnesses. I think that that's really important too. If you can connect with people that have never been brainwashed, it's going to help to retrain your brain as well. And be an activist. If you don't believe it, you're already an apostate by the dictionary definition. And if you're able to be an activist, you have the time for it, you have the drive, we need you. Make some YouTube videos and help us brainstorm for some good ideas on how we can hopefully reach some of our loved ones or make it okay for doubters to doubt.
Yeah, every little bit makes a difference.
Yeah.
There's something you can do, no matter what you feel comfortable doing.
All right, thank you both. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you again soon.
Thanks.